As I pay tribute to my noble friend, Lord Chris, both for securing this important question for short debate and for his long and distinguished career in global health care and international development. Last year, at his instigation, I was able to take part in a call with health workers and nurses from Myanmar, Burma as I'll refer to it during the debate. It was dramatically interrupted, of course, that meeting by a cyber attack which reinforced some of the issues that we were talking about and the fear and the anxieties of some of those who were on the call. And from what he has said to us this afternoon, it's clear that the situation has not improved but only worsened in the meantime. I declare an interest as Vice Chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Groups on Burma and the Rohingya, and as patron of the Epiphany Trust, which supports humanitarian projects along the Burma-Thai border. I first visited Burma illegally in 1998 and also met the Karen refugees and internally displaced people on the border. It led to a letter to me subsequently from Lady Mountbatten of Burma, which touched me enormously. I mean, she talked about her father's high regard for the Karen people, and she described them as our forgotten allies. In subsequent visits, I met Aung San Suu Kyi, now incarcerated with thousands of other political prisoners. Reports of her poor health in prison and the concerns that emerged last year that she was being denied proper medical attention are deeply alarming. Until very recently, her son, Kim Aris, whom I would request of the Noble Lord the Minister that the Foreign Secretary should meet with him, had no contact with his mother and didn't know whether his own letters and parcels to her were reaching her. A recent letter to her son was, he said, the first confirmation that his mother is actually still alive. Since the coup, over 26,000 people have been arrested and over 20,000 political prisoners remain in jail. Their conditions, including adequate health care, are appalling. The humanitarian crisis in the ethnic states is even more shocking, with the military engaged, as we've heard from the Noble Lord Bruce, in a brutal campaign of airstrikes, bombardment and ground attacks against civilians with devastating consequences. At least 2 million people are internally displaced and thousands more have fled across borders to neighbouring countries. This week, my lords, I received a letter from the UNHCR representative in Bangladesh, Sumbul Ribzi. She describes the plight of Rohingya refugees from Burma who fled across the border and are in Cox's Bazar. She said that there had been a 179% increase in serious protection incidents, including 88 killings, torture, abductions and sexual-based violence. My lords, what impact will reduced humanitarian aid have on their protection and well-being? The military is also committing barbaric atrocity crimes at a level of intensity not previously seen. Thousands have been killed. Hospitals and clinics, as well as schools and churches, have been bombed. Volker Turk, the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, says that the junta's crimes include, I quote, burning people alive, dismembering, raping, beheading, bludgeoning, and, I quote, using abducted villagers as human minesweepers. He says it's inhumanity in its vilest form. According to the UN, at least 18 million people in Burma, a third of the population, are now in urgent need of humanitarian assistance. The World Health Organization says the entire population of 56 million are now facing some level of need, with at least 12 million people in need of humanitarian health assistance this year. The military regime has directly and deliberately targeting the health system and health workers, as my noble friend has described. New restrictive laws target NGOs and health providers. The government has imposed sanctions, and I, like my noble friend and my noble Lord Bruce, welcome, but we are still trying to put Burma back on the security agenda, are we? Perhaps the Noble Lord the Minister can tell us. What discussions are being had with the UN Secretary-General about what more he could do to address the crisis? We should increase efforts to seek the enforcement of a global arms embargo and in particular coordinate with like-minded countries on sanctions on aviation fuel, which would be a very practical and much-needed measure to impede the military's ability to bomb civilians. And so lastly, my lords, will the government urgently increase funding for humanitarian aid? Can the Noble Lord the Minister tell us precisely what the figures are for this year, particularly cross-border help for healthcare initiatives in the border areas, to help internally displaced people, and to provide provide much needed health care for those displaced by conflict, including those like the Rohingya, forced to flee the genocide unleashed upon them. If the Noble Lord, the Minister, hasn't seen the letter that I received this week from the UNHCR, I'm very happy to share it with him. I've tabled written parliamentary questions to him, and if he's unable to give the answers today, then I look forward to reading them in due course.